This program and its contents are designed for information and educational purposes only. This program does not render medical advice or professional services and is not intended to be a substitute for professional care. The information provided here should not be used for the purposes of diagnosing or treating a medical or psychiatric condition. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, consult your healthcare provider.
This program is brought to you by Movement Solutions. Hi, welcome to Positive Momentum TV. I'm Diane Silva, and today I have Teri and Eric Bernstein of Road Travel Adventures. And we're going to talk more about changing our lifestyle, going from the quote-unquote typical American dream of owning the home and raising the family to the point where we've gotten to the point, okay, that dream has been lived, and now we're transitioning into something different.
We use the word dematerialize.
Okay, well, I'll let you take the dematerialization. Apparently, you've started to do this?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, let's kind of hear about this.
So when we last spoke, this was all a plan.
Okay.
In the time between then and now, we've kind of organized all the stuff in our house. And the plan originally was to basically sell everything, buy an RV, motorhome, something like that, and then live life as, travelers.
Okay, so my guess is, just from listening to you guys and the way you said the plan is as they say, we make plans, God laughs. Or
I've always gone for Shakespeare's, the best laid plans.
Yeah, well,
but I like that one.
So apparently there's been a little hiccup.
Well, we have a longer time frame to work with. And sometimes when you get excited about doing something, you want to do everything right away. So,
Yes.
So we went out, we took an ad in the newspaper for a downsizing event.
Okay.
As well, because we didn't want it to be considered a garage sale,
Okay.
but we wanted to start moving the stuff out of our lives into other people's lives and not necessarily give it away, because we're not on pensions, we're not on Social Security, so we do actually want to derive income as we move our stuff along, because we weren't really trying to get rid of stuff that had very little value. The stuff that we're trying to get rid of actually has a lot of value, and so we were hoping that we could convey that message to the buying public. And so we like, for instance, I have 2,000 books, and we price them all individually based on what they're being sold for on Amazon. We went through all our glassware, dishes.
Okay, but I think you need to get to the point.
Okay, go ahead. Finish up. Take it away.
I think kind of in a nutshell of where you're going is we went through all of this, and part of getting ready for the downsizing event was looking at every item that we had and evaluating it. Is it a sentimental value to us? Is it a monetary value to us? Is it a necessity that's something we need to keep or take with us on the road? Okay. So things had to be categorized before they could even get into the downsizing event. Because, why sell your pots and pans and then have to go buy new ones?
Exactly.
Not logical. But the process, which seems so simplistic, of sell everything you own, sell your house, buy an RV trailer, and hit the road and live life and have experiences. Mathematically, we understand it. Logically, it has a path. Well, the whole other aspect of emotional attachments to things is almost like having every item, think of every item having an octopus underneath it with 8 legs.
Okay.
And every item had 8 different emotional attachments to it. Whether it came from family or friends, or do I need it, or do I really need it, or do I want it? Did I have to? I would just start putting values and constantly debating. I mean, I'll be a great judge at the end of this. I could hold court. But it was just amazing that something so simplistic of just, okay, this is a path, we know what the path is, to the actual moment and how the moment is broken down by item. And then the whole thing of, well, where do you put things while they're in process? That's a whole nother thing, because now your whole daily life, your whole existence of moving through the house is in turmoil, because you have now just put your whole life in turmoil for the process of change. And it's hard, very difficult to live in a organized chaos. You know that there's a path, but you're like, really? I just want to get to a cup of coffee.
I'll tell you, you know, as you're talking about this, I see the correlation, you know, this just, it's life in general, and it's anxiety, and it's,
Yes.
and it's in it. So you can see how something as linear
Yeah.
as, okay, we're going to change, is the same as, okay, I'm going through, you know, I'm going to go travel, I'm going to have an anxiety attack, you know, because of the fact that there's that emotional component.
Yeah.
And you're having an experience when you're holding this item or whatever. Everything has an experience attached to it.
Well, the thing is, too, is like, I'd say, okay, I'd go through this whole evaluation for things. And I would deem, okay, gotta keep, or nah, I can really let this go. It's been 20, 30, 40, okay, that's too many years. Anyway, you know, so I'll put it out in the garage sale. And, you know, I'm out there now. I held the inside of the garage sale. He held the inside of the house, because too hard to move books. And, but before the sale opened, I don't know if I told you this, but I went back to the tables and started picking things off, and I hid them back in the house. And you know, so then it's like, then the whole nutshell of it, the end of the garage sale was, success is relative to, it's really inconsequential.
Yes.
Yes, it made some money, yada, yada, yada. But what it really came down to is we really started reevaluating everything all over again, in the sense of, do we keep the house, do we not keep the house? One of the things that was surprising to us was how attached we are to the house. I never think of him being attached to the house. I'm the one who wanted the house. He came along for the ride. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm the one ready to sell the house. He's the one who wants to keep the house. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm kind of like, wow, what do I do with that? You know, because it's just, and then you start looking at, you know, taxes and all this other stuff. And it's not, we had to bring in professionals to help us make decisions. We had to bring in our real estate agent and say, okay, what are our options? Because for us, we can't see the forest through the trees.
Right.
And he's like, okay, you can sell, you can rent, you can, you know, invest in the house and then sell it, hopefully get more money, no guarantee, or you can stay. Those are pretty much it. Right. And then we have to go to the accountant. We have an appointment with him as to what are the ramifications of all of these different choices that we have here. So again, that whole linear line is just, and it's like, we can't even say, yes, we're going to rent the house, yes, we're going to sell the house, yes, we're doing anything. We don't know squat, because depending on the moment, the answer changes.
Well, because things are also three-dimensional.
Yes.
It's very easy to go either or, but what happens when there's a third side, or a fourth side, or a fifth, and they're all swirling around? Because if you change one little part, then there's, like give you the example of, she for years talked about, well, maybe we should rent a house while we're on the road. Mm-hmm. But you can't really rent a big house unless it's suitable to rent. So all the expense of making the house suitable to rent is expense that we should put in if we're going to live there too. Mm-hmm. And then unfortunately, the little bit of savings we do have, if we use it all to fix up the house to rent, well, then we don't have the beginning bankroll to go on the trip.
Yeah. We're poor people trying to do wealthy people things.
Aren't we all?
It's like that show, Japan on a toothpick. Yeah, that's kind of, you know, it's, we don't want money to be the barrier of
Right.
what it is that we want to do. It's very easy to allow money to be your barrier. And, you know, and so I don't want that. But I think more importantly than the money, it's like when we started looking at the decisions that we make and the ramifications they have on our daughter, and the ramifications they actually have on our friends, because we have friends who come out to visit us on an annual basis. Well, if we sell the house, they can't come visit. And when we sell the house, how does that affect our daughter? She's got 3 more years in college. You know, I mean, where does she go for? And we were like, oh yeah, she can just meet us on the road. Well, you know, when you really start thinking that out, is it really as easy as we think it is, you know? But then again, am I creating an obstacle to allow myself to go back to point A and say, no, 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 we won't do anything? Or is it just an obstacle that needs to find a solution that's not that difficult? You know, so it's like constantly evaluating each part. Is it a real obstacle? Is it an emotional obstacle? Is it just a financial obstacle?
You know, and you're bringing up really great points. And one of the things, as you're talking about this, I'm relating it to to my unsuccessful trip to Hawaii.
Sure.
You know, is it? And as you're talking, what I'm thinking is, okay, maybe you're just not ready to take that big of a step. Maybe it's time to transition. Okay, I've got to take these little baby steps first. Okay, now I'm comfortable here. Then I take another few baby steps. Maybe by the time she gets out of college is when, you know, and
Sure.
sorry, this is just my mind, the way it works.
No.
I'm not trying to fix
but
your problem.
You're not far from what he's been saying, because he's been like, well, let's just keep the house. Let's get a teardrop. We'll go out for 3 months. We'll come back for 3 months. We'll go back out for, you know, so it's exactly, you know,
Right,
kind of that whole
transitioning.
transitioning stage.
See, when this process started, and it was due to sickness and watching a lot of YouTube, and some of the people
Sounds so
who we were trying to model the lives of what they presented, they all seemed, or at least they presented the face that they went all in immediately. Sold
okay.
everything, got a 34-foot
I
motorhome,
don't see it.
you know, and then just went off. And so we were in some ways saying, can we emulate that?
Some people can, some people can't, you know, especially if you have children and you want to leave, you know, have that place for them to come home to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's different than, okay, you know, yeah, they've got their, you know, she doesn't have her own little family unit yet.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and maybe once she does that, when you're going to be you know, easier to transition and let the house go, because then she would have the place you go to.
Well, exactly, and it's just that whole, when do you make those decisions? You know, then you start looking at the sense from the perspective of, I'm waiting for that, but what happens if I'm not able to live these next 4 years? God forbid, really don't
Yeah.
listen. But
It's not a test.
Huh?
Just tell them it's not a test.
Yeah, there you go, not a test. But it is a reality in the sense of there is no guarantee I have it tomorrow.
Right.
And so as much as, yes, I'd love to have my daughter have the home and always have something to come to, life is change. There is nothing that is constant other than the fact that there is change. And if you don't become comfortable with change, then you're always fighting it and you're always unhappy, and it's not, it makes for a more challenging life where it's really not that big of a deal to get on a plane and meet us somewhere. Now, it means
That's
that...
for me.
True. For her, it's not. I can speak for my daughter. She's really okay on a plane, and she's traveled on a plane by herself. So, you know, I mean, we've brought her up to be a traveler on her own also. So it's really not that far. But the traditional part says, well, yeah, you stay home, you keep the house, you have some place, but then it's... are you as an individual, are we really happy kind of waiting, you know? I mean, for Thanksgiving break, spring break, and summer.
Well, you know, and what I'm learning through my journey, you know, we're each having our own journey, and we learn different things from it, is to embrace the uncertainty.
Yeah.
To be okay where we are right now, because
that's
that's
the
where
hardest.
we are. I know.
Yes.
Because we want to be there, wherever there is. And when we get there, we want to be somewhere else. We're still not in the moment.
Yeah.
So it's hard to embrace the change, but it oh my, as hard as it is, it's such a freeing thing.
Well, you have two choices with it. You can embrace the change, and then you have a sense of control with it because you're not afraid of it.
Right.
And you're able to live in the moment, because when you're always looking forward, you're not here.
No.
And so that allows you to not have to be responsible for anything that you're doing or saying or how life impedes on you. Where if you are in the moment and life does impede, which it's going to, it's the question of how do you want to respond to it.
Exactly.
You know, and then how your response allows you to have that control. Where if you're not,
Or a
and you're
sense
just
of
reacting.
control.
Huh?
A sense of control, because the only thing we can
That's
control
true.
is our response, and even that,
Exactly.
we don't have I don't have a control over my immediate response. I have a control on how I respond to that response. I don't know how else
Sure.
to say that.
But, well, not only that, but as a couple traveling,
You know?
you have to have alignment also.
Or it gets real interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even driving over here this morning, because
Okay.
it's raining, so part of our discussion was about Chris and the motorcycle ride, and
Okay.
would you really want to do it today? And then she had an incident yesterday where she felt very close to being involved in an accident.
I was an inch away, not very close.
Yeah.
Somebody came
Yeah,
into
one
my
of those
lane.
like adrenaline spiking, like,
Oh,
whoa,
yes.
kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And so as we were riding on the highway today, we go, well, do we really want to be driving with a trailer on a rainy day?
Oh, great
And so then we
segue into
started thinking,
that.
okay, so if you decide that you're not going to travel on rainy days, so what are you going to do if you're in a little teeny,
Teardrop.
what we call these teardrops, which are basically like little tent trailers that are
Right.
metal. And then she says, well, we could always find a Starbucks. I go, but we're not really going to be traveling to places, you know, we're going to be in beautiful nature. If we're near a Starbucks or a movie theater, that means we're in these suburban outlying areas of a metro area, which we're probably not, you know, that's not the goal of where we want to go.
But actually it is, because we want to be near a city, we want to be
That's
able
true.
to be
We like
flexible.
cultural things sometimes.
We like the museums, we like doing the city life, not necessarily living in it. But, you know, but yeah, the question becomes is, how do we handle the rain? 2 dogs in a trailer that's the size of a queen-size bed.
With the kitchen.
With a kitchen, you know, in the back of it that you got to go outside to get to, and a van. So, you know, just even logistically, weather is going to have a huge impact on our decisions. So we keep having this discussion going back and forth. Well, do we get a trailer, or do we just, you know, go for the simple, the elegant, and, you know, keep it easy? And then, you know, but how do you deal with weather? And then put 2 dogs in there, you know, and granted they're small, thank you, but you still have 2 dogs in a trailer or a little, you know, teardrop. And then, you know, on spring break, you have your daughter in a tent with us in a trailer with 2 dogs, you know, and then add rain.
Yeah, I see a transition coming. That would be me, you know.
Yeah, but it is interesting where we thought, I mean, at one point we even thought we'd be leaving this September.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, because that's kind of my personality. When I've made a decision, boom, let's go. What are you waiting for? Get to it.
I
Hop to
understand
it,
that.
you know. And my husband is just so the opposite. That opposite attract things. He ponders and he chews the cud, and I'm like, haven't you had enough cud already?
I like that. I like putting it like that.
But, you know, it forces me to stop and slow down, and then, you know, I have to. In my world, it's suffering. In his world, it's pontification. But a lot of things come from that. You know, me allowing him to go through his process, and then me acknowledging mine, that I'm like, zoom, you know. It's like, and I'll want to go from 0 to 60, and there's a whole lot of stuff in between, and sometimes I miss it. You know, because
slow
I'm
us down.
so focused on the end result.
Right, and I feel you. I call my husband's the anchor. I'm the speedboat, and if somebody had told me if I don't slow it, you know, if I don't slow it down, I'm going to burn out my motor.
Sure.
Because there's no pulling that anchor, and the more I try to pull it, the further it digs in. Exactly. So
Yes.
I get you.
Yes, that's
You know,
funny.
I mean, when this process started, so we're going to celebrate an 8th anniversary in our house in about 2 weeks. It happens right on the solstice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and this is the only house that we've ever owned. And we kind of realize if we're giving up our jobs and stuff and we're not really independently wealthy at all, it may be the only house that we ever actually own. We might
But
own
to even add to that, it's the only house I've ever lived in. I've only grown up in apartments and lived in apartments. And the longest I've ever lived anywhere was 8 years.
Oh my God,
And
we are
so-
so alike.
Say
Yes,
what?
We are so alike.
Oh,
But go
well,
ahead.
so what happens now for, you know, the whole, the symbolism of the house for me, because I grew up in poverty, so, you know, that whole
I
moving up the
understand.
ladder kind of a thing. And, you know, the house is this huge achievement for me. And so it's kind of like, part of me is like, okay, been there, done that, you know, but the other part of me is, when I sit outside, I look at my house and I go, oh, it's mine. It's so
I
cool. I don't want to give it up.
Sure, I mean, we took all the garage sale money and did gardening on the front of it. Because we realize it has to have curb appeal, whether we're
Yeah.
going to rent it
Yeah.
or sell it or keep it.
I understand, but I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
That's hard for me.
But just to backtrack, so when this plan was launched, I thought symbolically, I'll be 60 in 2 years. We will have been in the house 10 years. That seems like a good time to work towards. Also, that summer will be our daughter's last summer break between the junior and senior year. So in that sense, she's really going to have to go out and find her own life the next year anyway. So that was originally what we were talking about. That also gave us a long time to kind of little by little downsize.
Understood.
But we're all dependent on work situations and such.
Yeah.
And so new wrinkles came up that
Life, interrupt us. I'm losing my job.
Oh, man.
So, you know, I'm right now in the fight for my job because it's sales, so it's performance and everything. And so now that stress level is just escalated because, you know, I don't know what day that week, hour is going to fall. And so sometimes it's very difficult. So there is that want to, just go. You know, I'm just like, just get out.
And also, interestingly enough, so she's the majority breadwinner in our family. When we moved here, we moved because of a job, so I had that role.
Yeah.
But somehow as I've gotten older, and because I don't really have a good network in Omaha, the jobs, or I should say the financial reward of the jobs has diminished in the last 5 years. And I don't know if it's because of my age or I'm just not hooked up or whatever, but anyway, so we're figuring that into the mix too. So if we go another year or two, it means she's still going to have to find another job, but it's probably not going to pay as well as the one that she has.
Right, so now we're in that, can we even afford the house that we don't want to get rid of? And now can we even afford the ability to fix it up, to sell it or rent it, because we don't have the money to go ahead and live in it. So talk about changing wrinkles.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we are pretty resolute that we are travelers, that we do want to do that. So even though we've sided off into the house, there will come a time where we will be on the road for a very long time.
I want to speak to your question real quick on the transition in the financial environment around here. One of the things I found is we are a protected class. So a lot of companies, although they say they don't age discriminate, they do.
Sure.
They want to bring in the younger kids out of school,
and that's
blah, blah,
exactly
blah.
what I'm seeing at my job.
Right, and that's what we're seeing in a lot of jobs. You know, my husband's losing his. I gave up mine, which, anyway, you know.
Another show.
Yeah, we're not even going to go there. But things work out. And that's the way I've learned to understand and trust the universe, whatever.
Exactly.
Because it's going to work out. You know, if maybe this is what you need to kind of be able to sit in the house for a little while and go, okay, are you my friend or are you holding me back?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the big reason that I want to sell the house, and I love you dearly, but he can't stand doing any of the maintenance or even talking about it.
Okay.
So it falls on my plate, which is very challenging. Now, I have no problem going in and being the fixer-upper. I just don't have the physical strength anymore, nor do I have the knowledge, because it takes time to gain that knowledge. So we don't have the money to hire.
Right, exactly.
So, you know, it's that catch-22 of things. So when I look at it from that, when I look at it logically, it's like, okay, we need to let that go. But again, that whole emotional of, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. And if we're meant to stay in the house, things will arise that will allow us to be able to do the thing we do. But it's beyond change at that point. Now it's actually trust in the unknown. And having that trust in the unknown only really comes from having the experience of being redirected into something more successful. And, you know, having had that in my life a lot, I'm okay with doing that, but it's always kind of been just me. I have never done trust the whole universe kind of a thing. on a family level.
I understand that.
Because to me there's like karma involved, and I know him and my daughter have good karma, but I also know that we also have different paths, even though we're united as a family, and their paths can impact back and forth, and they're all intertwined, and so it's very hard to just kind of go out there, okay, fine, I'm waiting.
Yeah, I know people who can actually, okay, I got a tent, I'm good, I'm gone, and they're happy, and things work out for them, and things flow.
Yeah.
And she's like, let's just have fun. I'm like, I want to have that mindset. I want to be okay with that, but I'm not there yet. She also had a 3-year transition to where she was able to, what she calls her shift, where she went from where we are to where she is. And there's, oh God, we can go so many places with this.
But that's also part of, this is the journey we're in. And if we're not acknowledging the journey and living within that journey in the present moment and not battling each other because of the journey, his version of the journey is different than my version, although we're experiencing it at the same time. But one of the things that helps and makes us stronger as a couple is in the sense that we share it. I mean, it's not, they're not tunnels, 2 separate tunnels. It's like one big tunnel, and we just put both of our thoughts and emotions into it and then kind of see what happens. And
United tunnel vision.
Yes, United tunnel vision. I like that too. So, but I think that's probably the beginning of the lessons that we're having to learn, because I kind of see it in my house lately in the sense of are you here? Are you present in the moment? And what choice did you make? And what self-negative speak did you allow to enter into your mind while you were making that decision or having that conversation with yourself? And then how did you tamper it? Or are you even tampering it? Are you even aware you're having it? And so all of looking at something of whether or not you want to keep it or not, and all of this else coming up, it is just kind of.
We're gonna take, in the next segment, we're gonna really delve into that, because we're out of time for this one. But I think we're gonna be able to wrap this up very nicely, and it can relate to any situation. So, Positive Momentum TV is brought to you by Movement Solutions.